Well, I figured it's time to do a video on PC chips as I've got several of their motherboards and gives me a chance to show them off a little bit, if nothing else. I bet you've been kind of wondering, I wonder whatever happened to PC chips. Well, we're going to find that out in this video. PC chips. Probably the most well-known and infamous of all motherboard manufacturers of the mid to late 90s. Motherboards ranging from cheap and cheerful to less cheap but still cheerful. PC CHIPS motherboards were sold under several generic motherboard brand names. Most well-known would be the Amptron brand, which were typically sold in a white generic box with no branding and only a sticker on the side with an obscure part number. Amptron was a cheap and cheerful generic motherboard brand at local computer stores and mail-order stores, such as in Computer Shopper, sold during the mid to late 90s. They were not known as a quality motherboard. The most famous motherboard that PC Chips ever produced was the M919 Socket 3 motherboard. This motherboard landed the company into a lot of heat, probably lawsuits as well, due to the installation of fake cast chips on the motherboard. These cast chips are nothing more than two pieces of plastic blocks with pins installed and soldered to the motherboard. PC Chips and later revisions of this motherboard did in fact remove the fake cast chips. They removed the couple of the 30-pin memory slots and replaced them with 72-pin memory slots, and added a second voltage regulator for the CPU. With these fake cast chips missing here, you can see the traces under the chips, quote-unquote chips, which go absolutely nowhere on the board. They simply connect to each other in a circle, which shows that while one could think possibly, perhaps, this was a design put into the motherboard for later use, as you can see, that simply can't ever happen because the traces don't go anywhere. One does have to wonder, though, why they went to all the trouble of etching traces into the PCB front and back that ended up going nowhere, while also soldering fake plastic blocks labeled right back cache to the board. They could have simply either put stickers there or glued blocks there, but no, they went to the trouble of soldering them down. Seems like an awful lot of work and extra cost associated with this than otherwise needed to be. This was seen for obvious reasons as being misleading, deceiving, ambiguous, or just plain ripping people off. While I do think this was kind of done as a way to market the capabilities of the motherboard, the fact that it supported right-back cache processors and L2, L1 caches there, it really was a horrible way of advertising such a feature. PC Chips motherboards in the mid to late 90s are easily recognizable by four distinct characteristics. Firstly, the PC Chips motherboards, with the exception of the early M919 and previous motherboards, 486 and 386 and as far back as you want to go there, have a distinct copper color to their traces on the PCB. These traces tend to stand out in color more than other manufacturers did at the time. Usually they were a brighter copper color, but some had more of a burnt copper color to them. And the board revision is always found in the top left-hand corner of the motherboard, right above the keyboard port. Second, the Socket 7 boards typically have a Burn in 24 sticker on their BIOS chip, or on the keyboard controller. Somewhere this sticker will exist on the motherboard. This was their attempt to gain back some credibility in the PC motherboard market by advertising that their boards were burned in for 24 hours, tested before leaving the factory there to ensure that, it worked when you took it out of the box. Whether they really did or not, I have no way of knowing, but at least it does give you a sense that the board is a solid board and stable, thoroughly tested by the manufacturer, so the sticker is meant to make you believe anyway. The third distinguishing characteristic of motherboards from PC chips is the slathering of gold plating on just about any metal surface that's bare. Gold plating on the RAM locks, pins on the power supply connectors, pins on the ID and floppy connectors, as well as the pins on all the jumpers, front panel connectors, not to mention the pins inside of the PCI slots are all gold plated. They didn't appear to bother gold plating the ISA connectors, however, and it's kind of funny, they missed a spot there. This gold plating can be seen on all of their motherboards during this time. Not terribly unique, but they seem to be the only one that bothered to gold plate the RAM locks, which I find very funny actually. But I do like the look of that actually. Heck, even the shield around the keyboard is gold plated. The fourth and final way to tell a PC CHIPS motherboard is the chipset, TX Pro in the case of this motherboard. While the TX Pro chipset packaging does look identical to the Intel 430TX chipset, it is certainly not an Intel chipset. TX Pro, TX Pro 2, 3, 4, VX Pro, BXL, etc., etc. These chipsets were actually renamed ALI, VIA, or SYS chipsets. They did sell motherboards with true Intel TX chipsets though, and to my knowledge I don't think they ever dared to rename one of Chipzilla's chipsets ever. I'm sure they might have a lawsuit pending up their butt if they ever did that. In the case of the TX Pro, this was actually an ALI Aladdin 4 Plus chipset. While renaming chipsets was certainly not an exclusive to PC chips during the late 90s, they were the most prevalent at doing this. By the end of October of 1998, PC Chips merged with another company, and their productions of motherboards came to an end. Or did they? So whatever happened to PC chips, you might be wondering? Did they just fade away into the annals of history to never be heard from again? Or could it be very possible that they're still making motherboards even to this day? Well, actually both are true, kind of technically, sort of. The name PC Chips is gone, but they are still making motherboards. In fact, there's a good chance that you are currently running one of their motherboards or have used one of their motherboards in the recent past. Who is that company? Well, there actually is a hint in this video. I'll show you this board right here. This board is distinctly PC Chips. You can tell that it's got that distinct color to it, front and back. Kind of got that shine too. But what's lacking, no burn-in 24-hour sticker right here, and no obligatory revision number above the keyboard up here. So what brand of motherboard is this? Well, there's nothing on here other than a part number on the board right there. This motherboard was sold in November 4th of 1998. You can see the sticker right there. So this motherboard was manufactured by the now joint company that became of the merger. And yeah, if you haven't figured it out by now in this video, the answer is right there. ECS. ECS merged with PC Chips, and this is the first or one of the first motherboards that came after that merger. Actually, it was probably in production before they announced the merger. The merger. Get that out right. This has 512K of cache, by the way, not 1 meg like my VIA 503 board. So this isn't quite as good as my VIA 503, but it'll be a nice little face-off to compare it to, nicely washed. But yes, this board is an ECS board. And like I said, I don't know if this is the first board, but it's definitely pretty damn close to the first board that came out, or that was released right after that merger. Basically, ECS bought out PC Chips so that they could gain their manufacturing. And as you can see, this board is early enough in its life in that merger that the manufacturing process is identical to the traditional PC chips, just is missing a couple little things there. But yep, PC Chips is ECS nowadays, and there's a good chance that you've probably used one of those motherboards either now or at some point in the recent past. Who would have thunk that, right? See you guys later. Peace out, everyone.